Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to the ones who have been here for the past 2 days or so. I'm so honored that you all are here today. It's great to have you. If you're your first time here, welcome. This is the third day of our 4-day training program where we're talking about going from law enforcement to a life of service in the private sector. It's definitely a topic that I really hold near and dear to my heart. It's something I'm really passionate about, and I'm very excited to have you all here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Colin Whittington, former law enforcement officer, served about 8 years as a deputy sheriff with the largest sheriff's office in Virginia. Was also a sergeant as well for a while, and then after 8 years, decided to leave law enforcement and made my transition to the private sector, where I really realized how few resources are out there for law enforcement officers trying to make that transition. And many of you maybe have experienced that yourself already. So I wanted to change that. And that's why I started Recruiting Heroes. And we are a national employment agency, and we're dedicated to helping law enforcement officers find amazing careers in the private sector. And then we also work with companies that want to hire law enforcement, as well as other first responders and military veterans as well. The first day went really, really well, as did yesterday. The first day we talked a little bit about the importance of career planning, some of the industries you might want to consider, skills and transferable skills you already possess that are valuable in the private sector, and a few other things. Yesterday, we really dove into resume writing and how important resumes are in the private sector, and it gave you some free resources that you can also, obviously, anyone can get it, even if you didn't watch yesterday. Both of those videos are live on YouTube as well, or available on YouTube as well, so you can go to this channel. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I try to put videos out as often as I can. It's been a little tougher the last 6 months or so since I have a newborn at home, but I'm hoping to get back on it again this year. But anyway, without further ado, let's get started today with one of my favorite topics, which is LinkedIn. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Like probably many of you, I created my, oops, sorry about that. I created my LinkedIn account during college back in probably 2011, 2012. I'm pretty sure a professor required me to create one. And I made one just to pass a class, and then probably didn't touch it again for the next 10 years or so. My last 3 years in law enforcement, I was a supervisor of the employment services section for my agency, which handled the recruiting and background investigation process for all deputies hired by the agency. So I started going more into LinkedIn then to explore its potential as far as recruiting goes for law enforcement. Didn't think a whole lot of it as far as for me personally to benefit from it. Did use it during my own transition, ended up finding my own connections through LinkedIn that led me to interviewing with the company I ended up joining, ended up getting that job, and that was all through just networking on LinkedIn. But I still didn't really totally see the value of the platform until I got into this career, which is helping you all with your career transition. And it's something that I think is really, really valuable. And I hope today I'll give you a good overview of the platform, show you what you can do on it, show you what you should do on your actual profile to make yourself as visible to recruiters as possible, and then a few other things as well. If you're a pro already, you may already know all this, but if LinkedIn is new to you, I'm hoping this is going to be really beneficial to you. Just like the last 2 days, if you have questions at all, don't feel like you have to wait to the end. You can put it in the chat box. I have it here next to me, so feel free to ask questions at any point in time, and I'd be happy to answer it. So for those of you who do not know much about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the largest professional networking platform in the world. It's close to 1 billion users now. I think the data here is a little old, so it's close to 1 billion users worldwide. And it's a mixture of job seekers, people just wanting to share about their career, recruiters, hiring managers, and unfortunately, yes, scammers as well, as we'll talk about towards the end of the lesson today as well. There absolutely are scammers on there, and the platform maybe isn't as great as it was 5-7 years ago, but I think it's still a very, very valuable thing that you should have in your toolbox during your career transition. I say there's probably 3 things that are most important during your career transition. First is a very strong resume. Next is LinkedIn, having a really strong LinkedIn profile. And third, which probably goes in hand with LinkedIn, is very, very strong networking. Most of the candidates I work with, one of the main ways I help them, of course, I work with their resume and their LinkedIn, interview prep and all that. But one of the main ways I help them is by personal connections and getting them in front of the right people at the right time. And that's the power of LinkedIn. And that's what I really encourage you all to use this platform for as well. Some of you may hate social media. I kind of always joke that cops fall into two categories typically. The one side are the ones who post about everything on their life. They post everything on social media. The other side are very wary of social media and don't use it much at all. And I'm trying to create a third group, the ones that use social media appropriately and use it to really benefit themselves and their career. And that's what LinkedIn can do for you when done appropriately. But there's certainly people that don't do that. It's good for professional networking. Like I said, you can connect with coworkers, former coworkers, friends, professionals in the industry that you want to join, and create really valuable relationships. As I said on the first day, if in the ideal world, I think most law enforcement officers should at minimum start their career planning for what comes after law enforcement about 2 to 3 years before leaving law enforcement. Now, that's probably pretty unrealistic, and I'd say 95% of law enforcement officers have absolutely no plan to start planning for their career transition that early. But ideally, that's when you would start. And you wouldn't be applying for jobs, but you would do things like create a LinkedIn profile, start recognizing what industries you want to pursue, and start building relationships with people in that industry. And there's really no better place than LinkedIn, especially when it comes to on the web versus in person. LinkedIn is a really, really valuable place to do that. Personal branding as well. You can showcase your experience, your skill set, your accomplishments. Anything that you want to highlight about your professional career, you can do that without feeling like that you're a show off or whatever else. If you've won an award, great place to highlight that. If you're promoted in your agency, highlight that as well. You can put it on your profile, or you can even post about it as well. I know you may not be comfortable with posting, and you really don't have to post. You're very welcome to just have a great profile, and that will be enough to help you stand out, which I'll show you here shortly. But I think if you do want to, get yourself out there a little bit more, it's a great platform to do that as well. LinkedIn is another good place to really learn and grow your skill set. They say that one of the biggest investments one can make is an investment in oneself. LinkedIn has a LinkedIn Learning and Development section of the platform where you can take various courses on pretty much anything you can imagine, from cybersecurity to recruiting to resume writing to whatever else. Some of them are free, some of them cost a little bit of money. You can sign up for premium as well. And we'll talk about premium here shortly. And with premium, you do get a number of those trainings for free. So you can certainly check those out. I would say for the most part, the courses on LinkedIn are great for getting you knowledgeable on a topic, not necessarily expertise level, but a decent foundation. I don't think they have quite the same name recognition as some of the certifications you might find elsewhere. Like the CompTIA Security Plus certification, the PMP for leadership, the Certified Fraud Examiner, if you want to go in that route. There are probably other ones that are probably more critical as far as like highlighting on your resume and things like that. But if you want to go into cyber and you really have no clue at all about what it takes to get into cybersecurity and want to just learn the basics, it's a pretty cool place to do that as well. One of the biggest reasons I recommend you being on LinkedIn, even if you have no plans to actually being, a posting member, is the visibility for recruiters and hiring managers. They did a study a handful of years ago that showed that the average recruiter is spending more time looking at candidates' LinkedIn profiles than they are their resumes. Yesterday, I shared that on average, recruiters are spending about 7.4 seconds looking at an individual resume. That is, if they even look at a resume at all. But the ones they look at, 7.4 seconds. I don't know the exact number for how long they look at a profile, but they say significantly longer than what recruiters spend on looking at resumes. And again, for those of you who were here yesterday, you saw that I actually include a LinkedIn profile link on the resumes that I write for my candidates. And I really recommend you do the same. Have a LinkedIn profile on your resume so recruiters can easily access it and find more about you, because you can go into so much more detail on your profile than you ever can on a 2-page resume. So make sure you do that, especially, only honestly, if your LinkedIn is up to date. If it's really outdated, I'd probably leave it off your resume, but hopefully today we'll clarify a lot of those questions you might have and go from there. LinkedIn is also a really good place to research companies, prepare for interviews, explore career paths, and all of that. The first one is one of the biggest things that I really try to stress with the candidates I work with is really researching companies that you're considering, because the hiring process or the interview process and all of that shouldn't just be a one-way street. It shouldn't just be about a company figuring out whether or not you are a good fit for them. It should very much also be, are they a good fit for you? Are they going to treat you right? Are they going to give you promotional opportunities? Are they going to pay you well? Is work-life balance a good thing there? Are employees happy? Those are all very important things, and honestly, things that I completely ignored when I wanted to leave law enforcement. I was, eager to leave. They dangled a decent salary in front of my face, and it seemed appealing, and I ended up taking the job and realizing quickly that the job and the company was not something I really aligned with morally and ethically, and did a little bit of research once I'd gotten into the company and found out that there were similar complaints going back 10, 15 years from former employees as well. So if I just taken the time to do some research, I would have discovered that far earlier. So certainly use LinkedIn for that as well. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here on the PowerPoint, not very much. What we're going to do next is going to go on to a fake account I created to really go hands-on versus just talking about it in theory. I find so many courses and programs are very theory-based, and I like to actually do stuff with you all. So hopefully that will make it a little bit more important. So as you'll see on LinkedIn, you can do a ton of stuff on your profile. You could spend hours and hours a week working on it and fine-tuning it and doing different things. And I encourage you to at least look through all the various options, but I'm going to talk about the ones I think are the most important. The things that you should absolutely have on your profile, regardless of whether or not you plan to have any more time on the profile. And starting off, something simple is just a profile picture. I really recommend you having a picture of yourself. If you're trying to go into the private sector, especially if you're going to the private sector in a non-law enforcement related role, I do highly recommend being in civilian attire. So, suit, shirt and tie for men and the equivalent for the ladies. If you are staying in law enforcement for a while, or you want to go to become a chief somewhere, or stay in security investigation type of roles, you want to highlight the fact that you're law enforcement, you can certainly be in uniform as well. There's nothing that LinkedIn says against it. Obviously, check with your agency, make sure that you're not going against your agency's general orders. But typically, I recommend civilian attire for this. The background image, which is the image behind the profile picture, which you can see here. This gentleman decided to put the company that he worked with, which is Red Speed. I always say that what goes in your background image, honestly, isn't that important. It doesn't really matter what's there, as long as it's appropriate, of course. But I do think the most important thing is that you have something there. Because when there's nothing there, which we'll show you shortly, it just looks very unfinished and unprofessional. So put something there. And there are a couple of options for what you can do there. LinkedIn, if you actually click on it and click on upload or add a background image, they'll give you, 4, 5, or 6 generic options that you can upload there. And they're just like, the beach or the mountains or the American flag or whatever else. And those things are totally fine. You can also go into Google and just search, background image for LinkedIn, and they'll give you a ton of options. And I'll show you a website called canva.com where you can actually create your own background image. And I'll show you how to do that here shortly. After doing those two things, the next important thing is your headline. The headline is the very short blurb that comes right below your name. So right below David's name, you can see his headline, which is VP of Client Relations and Sales at Red Force in Florida, Assistant Chief of Police, retired FBI, NA, 263, and so on and so on. What I recommend you do here, especially if you're actively looking for a role, is start off by highlighting the job title that you currently hold. It doesn't necessarily have to be the official rank. So you may have to say sergeant. You can say, law enforcement professional or something similar. But you certainly can use your title as well. Then use a vertical line, and then write about 2 to 3 skills or area expertise that you have, and try to really tailor those towards the career you want to go after. So if you want to go into security, maybe mentioning the fact that you have, recruiting experience may not be that beneficial. You may want to highlight things like risk assessment, threat assessments as well, and whatever else you want to highlight. Just make sure that they're more in line with the field you want to get into. And I kind of like at the very end to make a short blurb about the industry you're hoping to get into. So something as simple as seeking careers in the cybersecurity field, or hoping to utilize a diverse law enforcement background in security and investigations. Anything that gives recruiters an inside look at what you're pursuing will be very, very beneficial. When you post something, or when you like a post, or when you comment on something, there's a couple of things that show up to anyone looking at it. And typically that's your profile picture, your name, and your headline. So those are the 3 things that usually show up regardless of what you're doing on LinkedIn. So those three things are very, very important. And the headline, again, is a quick snapshot. Ideally, you want to draw in someone's attention and get them to spend more time on your profile, or actually go to your profile if they're looking at it somewhere else. The next section I think is very, very important is the about section. Think of this as a longer version of your executive summary on your resume. On your resume, as we talked yesterday, I recommend it being a 4 to 6 sentence paragraph or so. On the about section on LinkedIn, you have about, I think it's 2,600 characters, which sounds way more than it actually is. It goes pretty quickly. But here again, you want to talk about your career, what you've accomplished using data and metrics whenever possible, some of the major skills that you have, and then a little bit about where you're hoping to go next. So a format that I like to use is this. You write 3 paragraphs, and in those 3 paragraphs, again, you talk about a little bit about your career. And you can go into some details, but also on the high level, and then focusing again on your most important work. So if you are currently a police lieutenant, don't really focus on, the time you spent in corrections 35 years ago. Focus on your biggest and most important roles and go from there. And again, highlighting skills with metrics and data wherever possible. After those 3 bullet points, or in those 3 paragraphs, you can also talk again about the industry you want to get into and how your experience translates very well into those industries. Then I like to have a skills section, or areas of expertise, whatever you want to call it, where you list out maybe 5 to 10 of your most relevant skills and trying to use keywords for the industry, again, that fit the industry you're trying to go after. So what you should do there is go and spend, a half an hour looking at job posts. Doesn't have to be in your location, anywhere in the country, looking at job posts for the type of roles you're interested in, and just write down some of the main skills you're seeing pop up time and time again in those job descriptions, and try to include those as your skills, of course, as long as you have them. Never lie about your qualifications. And I'll show you why that's important here shortly. So that's the about section. The about section can also be a little bit more informal. It should still be very professional, but you can use first person, which you're not really supposed to be doing on a resume, and a little bit more relaxed. But I still think it needs to have a very professional tone. But the fact that you can use first person does make it a little bit more casual than what a resume comes across as. Next, pretty obvious, is the actual experience section. This is where you highlight what you've done in your career. Yesterday, I mentioned that I really recommend really only focusing on your last 10 years on your resume, the roles you've had in the last 10 years. LinkedIn, there's no such thing. You can go back as far as you want, put any role you want on there. Again, putting your babysitter job you had in as a teenager probably isn't worth it, but any professional career you've had since leaving school, since leaving the military, or including the military, are things you want to include. What I see, honestly, a vast majority of people do is they will put the title, their job title. They will probably put the organization they work for, maybe the dates of employment, and that's it. They leave the description box completely blank, and that's a huge mistake. This is where you want to go into details about what you accomplished and what you did in that role. So you want to highlight major job duties, major achievements, again, using data or metrics whenever possible, initiatives you created, programs you ran, people you supervised, budgets you managed, anything like that that you can highlight that really shows what you bring to the table and what value you offer employers is going to be very important to do and to include here. And again, trying to include as many keywords as you can, and I promise you I'll show you why that's important here shortly. If you already have a fantastic resume, which after yesterday, hopefully you do, you can actually use the exact bullet points from your resume and put it in here. Because honestly, your LinkedIn should be a digital version of your resume. So it's very much fine to put, you can always tailor if you want to, but if your resume section is phenomenal, you're incredibly proud of what you wrote there, you can absolutely use that information in this section here. So we'll go through and show you how to do that here shortly. Next, you can add skills and endorsements. Skills are basically, like the word suggests, those are your main abilities. And you can put up to, I think it's 100 skills per profile. So up to 100 skills you can do on there. And you can attach skills to different jobs. You can attach skills to education. You can attach skills to your about section and numerous other places. Big thing there, again, trying to add skills that are relevant to the career you're trying to go after. And then also another thing that I always try to point out as well, once you have a skill on there once, it's covered. You don't have to do it again. So I'll see people who put in criminal investigations as a skill, and they'll put it on there for all 15 jobs they had in law enforcement. You can do that if you want to, but it's not going to help you. Once you have it on there once, it's a searchable skill that any recruiter could find. So if you're running out of if you're hitting 100 skills and you're like, oh man, I can't add any more, go back through and make sure you have no duplicates, because again, they're not going to help you having it on there more than once. You can also add education and certifications, which I highly recommend. Degrees are obviously still very important in the private sector. I have seen a little bit of a shift recently towards certifications and trainings, where companies are putting more emphasis on those, or at least close to as much emphasis on those as degrees. So if you have certifications, include those as well. And these ones, for the most part, should be ones that are, nationally recognized ones. If you went to a very small certification or training within your agency that's very agency specific, that may not help you, But if you went to FBI NA, you probably want to include that. If you went to an FBI leader courses, those are good ones. The Johnny Reed interview and interrogation course, good one to put on there. Any of the other ones you might want to do to make yourself more competitive in your career or future career, those are all things you want to highlight. So again, if you want to go to cyber, any of the CompTIA certs are really valuable. If you want to go to fraud, the certified fraud and examiner, anything that you think will help you in your career should absolutely be on there. And same thing with your education as well. Okay, so we're now going to talk about what's called LinkedIn Recruiter. And some of you may know about that, some of you may not know about it. So LinkedIn Recruiter is a software that's available, as the name suggests, for recruiters and individuals in the hiring world in the private sector. It's incredibly expensive, but it's also incredibly valuable to recruiters. So I have one for my company, and it's hands down my biggest expense. It's $10,000 a year per user. So it's very, very expensive. But what it does is it allows recruiters to proactively go out there and find candidates for their open positions. So if I'm given a role to work on, let's just say security manager, a company hires me and my firm to find them a security manager for their open position. What I'm going to do, of course, I'm going to share the job on all the job boards that we partnered with. So I'd go into my applicant tracking system, write up the job description, advertise it, and promote it on all the platforms from LinkedIn to Indeed to Monster to Dice to wherever else. But I'm not just going to sit back and wait and hope someone good applies. That's incredibly reactive. And I'm a recruiting firm, or what we are. So that typically how that works is companies will use numerous recruiting firms, and whoever gets the best candidate first wins kind of deal. So I'm not going to sit back and just hope someone good applies. What I'm going to do is also be very proactive on it. And I'm going to go on to LinkedIn Recruiter. And this software is phenomenal. It allows me to search for people based on, I think it's like 55 different filters of different criteria. So it's some obvious ones like job titles, location, skills, companies, things like that. It can also be, I'm looking for people who want to be fully on site. So anyone who says I only want to work remote wouldn't show up. I can search for very specific keywords. I can search for certifications. I can search for numerous things. And what it's going to do then is going to show me the candidates that match that, all those requirements I'm looking for. And then I would proactively go out and reach out to them. So I'm going to show you this video. My LinkedIn Recruiter is being a little bit weird today, so I didn't want it to freeze on us. So luckily I've recorded a video a few months ago that works really well still. So just bear with me here. Let me hit play on this and I'll walk you through it. So this is how LinkedIn Recruiter looks from the home page or the search page. And these are some of the filters that I can search for. So you can see spoken languages. If I'm looking for a Spanish speaker, zip code, network relationships, years of experience. If I want someone with 30 years of experience, companies, organizations, I can look for someone who worked for the NYPD, maybe, current companies, past companies, people who've interacted with my company before, you name it. I can search for a ton of different things. So here I'm going to look for security professional, let's just say. And I live in the Washington, D.C. region. That's where the job is, let's just say. So I put in Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. So what it's going to do, let me pause really quick. So what it's going to do now is it's going to show me candidates that have security professional on their as a job title somewhere on their profile. And it's also going to show me people that are in Washington, D.C. So if you're a security professional and you live in Miami, Florida, and you say that's the only place you want to work is Miami, Florida, you wouldn't show up in my search. You would have to have that location on. So locations it's going to be a big factor we'll talk about shortly when we actually go onto LinkedIn and why you want to be very strategic with the locations you pick. But let me start up again here. Okay, so I'm going to I think I hit search now. So this is obviously very broad. So you can actually see, as I highlight here, 18,000 results. So it's way too many people for me to ever do anything with. But what I'm highlighting here is that there were 6.7 thousand people that were open to work, so significantly less. And we'll talk about the open to work feature shortly. But what I can do now is get more specific. So maybe I want to have someone who has police officer, that keyword police officer on their profile. So I would do that. Now the 18,000 are down to 1.4 thousand, and the open to work candidates are down to just 780. And what it allows me to do is I can go and see people's profiles. I can see the job they've had, education, and this is just a general snapshot. I can also click and get more details on their profile. And again, here's everything on their profile that I can go down and read, as well as seeing similar candidates on the right side there. So what I would do is, let's say I did a search and I got to narrow down to 5 candidates who meet all my requirements. I would then proactively reach out to those candidates, introduce myself, say who I'm working for, I'm representing, the role, and seeing if they're interested. These are what we call passive candidates because they're not actively applying for the role that I'm advertising. They're passive. So you would think, or I would have thought back when I started this company, that the majority of the candidates I find for the companies that I represent would be ones who applied for my job, the jobs that I put out there. Last year, 2025, about 65% of the candidates that I found that I placed with these companies, I found on LinkedIn Recruiter, and they never actually applied for one of my open roles. The other 35% did actually apply, but you can tell that LinkedIn Recruiter is a great resource for recruiters. But again, it's only going to be as powerful as you make it. So I sent a whole letter here. This is the end of the video. But it's only going to be as powerful as you make it. You could be the world's greatest security manager or security professional in the entire world. If your profile sucks or isn't complete, you wouldn't show up on this search. I got a question here really quick. Advice for college students looking to pursue a career in law enforcement. Hey, I'll put my email up at the end of the screen. Send me an email with that question because this one's a little bit more for law enforcement, people leaving law enforcement. So I don't want to take up too much of that time, but send me an email afterwards and I'll definitely help you with that for sure. But that's a great question, man. Anyway, but yeah, keep asking questions, everybody. I really do appreciate that. And I love the interaction whenever it comes in. So this is how LinkedIn Recruiter looks. Again, I'm sorry the actual recruiter is being a little funky today. So that's just the video, but this is how it looks. So now hopefully you got a better understanding of what recruiters see when they're using LinkedIn Recruiter. Okay, I want to cover scammers super fast, just so you're aware. If you're on LinkedIn already, you've probably been the recipient of numerous scam attempts already. Especially if you change your profile to open to work, which I think is very beneficial. Unfortunately, it does bring all the scammers to the yard, I guess you can say. There's a couple of ways that's pretty obvious to tell if it's a scam. First of all, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I don't know why scammers do it. I don't know why they don't make it more believable, but I'll get scammers all the time telling me that I'm the perfect fit for a role that requires me to only work an hour a day, but the pay is, $3,000 a day. So I'm making $3,000 an hour. So click this link, we can get started. That's obviously BS. Don't believe that. On LinkedIn does claim they do their best to try to prevent scammers. So what these scammers are trying to do to avoid being blocked or removed from the platform, they will try to get the conversation moved off of LinkedIn onto a platform like WhatsApp, Telegram, or somewhere else. So if they're asking you, hey, you're a good fit for this role, let's have a conversation here on WhatsApp, it's a scam. If they claim to be working for a big company or any company, let's say they work for Lockheed Martin, and then they say you're a good fit for a role, let's talk via email. My email is whatever at gmail.com. That's a scam as well. Any recruiter reaches out with a Gmail or a Hotmail or anything else like that, it's 100% a scam. They should have a professional email that's linked to the domain of the company they're claiming to work with. So if you see any of that, that's a huge scam. You can also go on to their profile, and what you'll see is a lot of them are brand new accounts because they've been shut down so many times. They have to keep making new accounts. Their follower numbers, which is the bottom left block, is going to say 0 or 1 or 2 or like very small numbers. That's going to be a big scam. A recent thing that they've started doing in the past year or so, LinkedIn allows you to put a link to any website you want to. So like for me, I have a link to my Recruiting Heroes website, and it shows up in blue underneath all the name and the headline and the location. So recruiters you can use any text you want for that link or that wording there. They're putting in that they have 500 connections and 1,900 followers or whatever else, making it look like they have more connections than they actually do. So that number is absolutely a scam, and that's just them adding it. The real number is actually going to be a little bit lower, and it cannot be changed by anybody besides LinkedIn. So that's where you want to really look. But okay, now I'm going to go. Actually, I think that's it. Oh, okay. I'm obviously going to walk through it personally here today, but if you want to help with a LinkedIn, I have a free guide. So you can scan this QR code. I've also sent it out numerous times already, and I'll add my email later as well. If you want it, I can email it to you. But all the resources for the training so far will be on here, but so is the Heroes Job Search Guide, in which I kind of walk you through how to tailor and optimize your LinkedIn profile. So if I talk too fast today or you couldn't keep up, you can always go back and read that guide totally for free and make your profile look amazing. All right, but now it's time to get on to actual LinkedIn. Let's make sure it's working. Okay, cool. So I made an account. This is a fake account. Speaking of fake accounts, it's incredibly easy to make one. So I just did it here. So it's Officer Leo. This is going to be the homepage of LinkedIn. If you're already on it, you already know it's similar to any other social media platform that has a homepage or the thread or the whatever you want to call it. And it's going to get more and more tailored towards you the more time you spend on it. And also be dependent on your profile as well. So I'm going to actually go to the profile, and you can go here, click here, and you can go to view profile. And this will take you to your profile page, which you can tell here is very much bare bones. There's absolutely nothing here besides his name and a few other small things. I said, add a picture, super easy. You would click the button here. You can actually use a camera on your phone or on your computer to do one, or you can upload one. Again, I really recommend doing professional attire, whether it be uniform or civilian attire is your own choice, but making sure that you do that. Officer Leo. All right, so this is an AI picture, but you can obviously adjust it as you want and then save and upload it, and there it is. The profile images, this is the background image right here, or the banner, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, it really doesn't matter what goes there. It just matters more that you have something there, because the way it looks right now is very much just looks incomplete. It looks like you didn't really give a crap about your profile and you just left it the way it is. So I do recommend, at the very least, you click the little camera button, add cover, and then here are a bunch of options that LinkedIn gives you. Again, it doesn't really matter what's there. You can pick one that here you like. The other option is to go to a website that's called, I already mentioned it, it's canva.com. So canva.com. There's a paid version, but the free version works just as well for pretty much what you want to do here. So what you would do is type in LinkedIn background photo or image or whatever else, and it's going to show you all types of different designs that have been created for you. So let's just say you really like this one. You can click on it, you can customize it, and then you just obviously change it to you. So I could go on here and make it Colin Whittington. I have a very long name, so it's not going to fit, but you know the deal. And I promise you, I'm not good with technology. I'm not good at graphic design. It's basically as close to idiot proof as you can get. So don't be intimidated by it. It's very easy. And then again, you would download it and then upload it to here. But for now, I'm just going to pick the one LinkedIn has to make it easy. So that goes there, and it's already going to start looking a little bit more like a complete profile. This top area is where you really can control your profile and add various sections to it. So you can always click on anything on here. Again, you can always go back and change your name. If you didn't like if you put a typo in or whatever else, you can change your name here. Additional names, you can. I don't know, don't super recommend it. Pronouns, not to get to a political topic or anything else like that, but there was a study done in the past year or so that showed that people that have pronouns listed on their resume or on their LinkedIn profile were hired at lower rates. So just keep that in mind. It's your own personal opinion. I leave them off when I create LinkedIn profiles, but again, totally your own decision there. Next is the headline. So the headline was what I talked about, is the quick blurb that goes right below your name. I think it's 220 characters, so it's pretty short. So I wrote one for him, and again, it's very, I just did it really quick. I don't necessarily recommend this exact one, but this is what I just did. Accomplished law enforcement leader, lieutenant, strategic investigator, expert in gang suppression, homicide investigations, and multi-agency collaboration, pursuing a career in corporate investigations. So nothing crazy, nothing fancy. I mentioned yesterday AI and ChatGPT and things like that. You certainly can use it. So you could do something as easy as, copy and pasting your resume, putting it in ChatGPT, asking it to come up with a LinkedIn headline or 10 options for LinkedIn headlines, and you can always see what it comes up with. Of course, I always recommend making it your own and not just going blindly off of what anything else tells you to do. But that's the way, if you're feeling really stuck, you can always do that to at least get yourself started there. Here you can add positions and stuff as well as industries, but I like to do it at a different location. I'll show you that shortly. Location, I recommend putting where you currently live, so your zip code. This is, I was at Charlotte NPD, so I had their zip code just for that, but I actually live in Boyce, Virginia, so I would put that down. Contact information, that's really a personal decision. What I would probably say is to leave your phone number off of it, but to add an email on there. And you can honestly create an email that's just for job seeking. So if you have your personal email you have for family, friends, whatever else, maybe create another email that's literally just that you're only going to use for your job search process. That way, if anyone sends you crap from that or selling a product or service, whatever else, doesn't bother your day to day. But I probably would put an email here just in case a recruiter comes across you, wants to message you, at least gives them an option, even though they can message you on LinkedIn as well. Just make it as easy as possible. But again, when you're done, you would hit save, and then it would pop up here. All right. So again, here are all going to be all the various sections that you can add. But first, I want to go to the Open To button. And here is where you can show, I already did it. So Open to Work would show up here as an option if you had nothing clicked yet. But I already did, so it'll be popping up down here. So I'm just going to edit it so you can see. LinkedIn allows you to pick up to 5 different job titles that reflect the roles you're interested in. So I have 5 listed here, but it could be anything you want. Maybe you want to be, a project manager, or a data analyst, or a police officer again, or whatever else. You can pick 5 to put in here. So just give that some thought, because those are sometimes used by recruiters to search for candidates as well. They might search for somebody that wants to be a director of security, and then if you have it on there, that will make you more visible to them. Any questions yet, people? Feel free to ask at any time, like I said. All right, location type, on-site, hybrid, remote. I recommend having all 3 checked unless you're super opposed to one or 2 of the others. I know remote is not everyone, a lot of people's dream. Their dream would be to get a remote job. Just be realistic with it. Remote roles have gone from, I don't know, like 30 or 40% of the job market to down to like 7 or 8%. And last year, I think it was around 9% of the jobs were remote. And those 9% got well over 50% of all applications on LinkedIn. So 9% of jobs are getting over half of the applications. So it's going to be tough, but that's a tangent for another day. But you can pick on-site, hybrid, remote. Why this is important, as I showed on LinkedIn Recruiter, location type was an option for searching. So if I know for a fact the role I'm recruiting for, the security manager role I'm recruiting for, is a fully on-site role, I would make that one of my filters. That way I don't see candidates that only want to work remote. So if you put it on here, if you uncheck these 2 and say I only want remote, you wouldn't show up on that search. So if you want to make yourself as visible as possible, I recommend all 3. All right, below that is location. And location is also another important one. You're allowed up to 5 here as well, I believe. And this is going to also dictate where you show up in what searches. So let's say it's for me. And let's say I just bought my dream house here in Boyce, Virginia, which is true. We bought it about a year ago, and there's 0 chance we're moving. I would put, Boyce, Virginia. I might put some neighboring towns and stuff that are close by, but I wouldn't go much beyond that. But let's say, my family and I are open to living pretty much, anywhere. Maybe want to live in Miami. Oops. Cool. You can put Miami or Fort Lauderdale or whatever else. You can do up to 5. So again, when a recruiter is searching for a role, especially for the on-site and hybrid roles that are obviously location dependent, they don't, if they're looking for a candidate, in Dallas, it does them no good to find the perfect candidate that lives in Alaska, right? It's not going to help them at all. So they're going to search by location type. And again, you will only show up in their search if you're in the location where that job is. So let's say hypothetically, you are open to living anywhere in the country. You could put United States down and you would show up in any search for a job in the United States, as long as you meet the other criteria, of course, as well. But as far as location goes, you would show up in any search. And you can do international as well. Maybe I actually grew up in Germany, so maybe you want to go back to where I lived in Frankfurt, Germany. You could put that in there as well, and it would show up there. So that's location those are for on-site and hybrid roles. For location, what I recommend you do is put United States, because what it does is it'll make you visible to any remote search in the United States. And most, not all, a good number of remote jobs don't have any kind of living requirement. There are some that say, hey, it's full remote, but you have to live within, I don't know, an hour of Washington, D.C. or whatever. But for remote, I would recommend putting down United States. All right, the next one, start date. Are you looking immediately? Maybe you're unemployed and you want a job right away. Highly recommend putting immediately down. Or maybe you are within a few weeks. I would still put that down. But maybe, you have heard about this program and you're here and you're 5 years left in law enforcement. So, I'm not leaving in the next 5 years. So I'm flexible. I'm casually looking. You can put that one down there. And again, this is another search filter that recruiters have on LinkedIn Recruiter, and it might influence whether or not you get a message from them or not based on that. Next is employment type. Pretty self-explanatory. You can, if you're open to full-time, great. If you want to have part-time contract, I don't know if you want internship anymore in this stage of your life, you can do that. Temporary, whatever you want to do. But let's just say it's just full-time. You can do that. Next one I get a lot of questions on. The open to work. People who are currently, let's say you have 2 years left in your job. You don't want your sergeant knowing you're looking for work. You're worried about how that would impact your ability to promote, to get raises, to get specialty units, whatever else. There's a way to show that you're open to work to recruiters without it being visible to everybody else. And that's by clicking the first option, which is recruiters only. So that's only going to make you visible to those that have LinkedIn Recruiter. So again, I mentioned earlier, it's $10,000 a year at minimum. Some companies pay more than that, but $10,000 a year for LinkedIn Recruiter. I don't think I've met anybody in law enforcement that has LinkedIn Recruiter. For some reason, law enforcement doesn't use LinkedIn much for recruiting, even though I think it's a big mistake. But if you're worried about coworkers or bosses or anybody else knowing, this is a great option to click. Let's say you don't care. People know your retirement date is March 1st of this year. Everyone knows you're leaving. Doesn't hurt to have what's called the green banner. Basically, it says a green banner around your profile picture that says open to work. And that shows people you're, as the name suggests, looking for another opportunity. Some people claim that having that banner that makes you look desperate or whatever else. I don't think so. I think it's a personal decision. I think having one of these two checked is great. Whichever one you choose is up to you. I do recommend, if you're job seeking though, if you're looking for a role, making yourself open to work is very, very important. The way LinkedIn Recruiter works, every single month, LinkedIn gives me 100 in-mails. In-mails are basic messages. And how it works is on LinkedIn Recruiter, if I do my search, right, and I find 10 people that I like that are on there that are a good fit for my role, I can message all 10 of them. Now I'm down to 90 in-mails for that month. But the way it works is, let's say I'm going to write you an in-mail. Say, hey, my name is Colin. I'm recruiting for this role. Your background caught my eye. This is the details of the role. Are you interested? Let's say you tell me to get lost or no, thank you, not interested. LinkedIn's algorithm or their brain or whatever else knows that. And when they see a negative response like that, they deduct me from one in-mail. So I'll lose that in-mail. But if I reach out and say the exact same thing and you say, sounds good, let's chat, I get that in-mail back. So what typically happens, recruiters at least start their search, and majority of their search, they're only going to look at candidates that are showing as open to work, because they don't necessarily want to risk messaging somebody or multiple somebodies that are showing that they're happily employed, because there's a much greater chance that they're going to get that negative response, which will cost them an in-mail. And you have to keep in mind that most recruiters are working on 10 to 20 roles at once. So 100 emails might sound like a lot, but they go fast. If you have a search that's relatively broad and there's 30 people on there, if you want to message all 30 of them, that's going to go pretty quickly. So picking one of these options is going to be very important. So you can click save here. All right. You can also announce it to everybody else, but I'm going to leave that for now. There's a good chance we're going to go over today, guys, so I do apologize. If anyone has a bedtime or anything else to do, you're very welcome to sign off, of course, but I hope you do stay. I love this topic, so sometimes I get carried away, so I apologize in advance. All right, so from this section, like I said, you can add on anything else you want to your profile. You can add on education, positions, services, what else? Career breaks, let's say 2 months off after you're retired. You can highlight that there to explain why there's an employment gap. You can add skills. Those are all the core ones and the recommended ones. Featured section. The featured section is kind of cool. One thing I used to do there, I used to add my resume to the featured section, so it'd be prominently displayed on my profile for recruiters to look at if they like what they saw on the profile. You can also share articles you've written, books you've written, news articles that you were highlighted in, whatever else, you can put that there. License and certifications, projects, courses, and again, there's so much more. You should honestly go through all of it and just see what's on there, because there's a ton. Volunteer experience, honors and awards, all kind of other things. Whoops, clicked off of there. So let's go down. Let's say you want to add a position. I already have this position that the experience section is open. Let's go first with the about section, which I mentioned earlier. One of the most important sections. So you would go up here, click add profile, and then about would be one of the core options here. Since I already have it, it's not there, but that's where it would show up. But you would go in here, and this is where you would write your about section. Again, you're allowed 2,600 characters, which is right there. I wrote one for this guy. So I'm just going to copy and paste it just so you can kind of see what it would look like. So I have my 3 paragraphs, my skills section, and my final paragraph. Again, that's just how I like to do it. You can format it however you like. But the important thing to remember, as you saw on LinkedIn Recruiter, keywords and skills are things that I can search for candidates. So let's just say I'm looking for, I don't know why, but I want mentoring as a skill I need for the job I'm hiring for. If I put in mentoring in the keyword section, and that's it, this person would show up on my search. It'll be one of my search, probably many people, but that would be one thing. So everything on the about section is searchable. So having a decently detailed about section is important. I see a lot of people just have, like 2 or 3 sentences as an about section. And it's fine. It's not going to necessarily, I think it will hurt you, but it's not going to like turn anybody off against you, but it'll limit the reach you have, or the visibility you have. So going to actual good detail about your role is going to be pretty important. And if you have premium, which might be a question you all have later, is it worth it? Maybe, but you can get AI support as well. That's one of the benefits of premium. You can get some of the things on here can give you AI support, and some of them are good, some of them are kind of crappy. So just be careful again with blindly trusting AI or any technology for that matter. I mentioned skills. You can have 100 on your profile. LinkedIn also allows you to have 5 main skills on your about section. I honestly don't really know the difference between the skills that go here versus the ones that go anywhere else. As far as from my experience, they're equally searchable and findable. But you can pick 5 main skills that really highlight who you are as a candidate. So pick the 5 ones you think are the most important for you, and you can put them here. And the way this guy already has 5, let's say they're all gone or one of them are gone, you would basically start typing in here. And some of them will auto-populate. So if you did project management, it might show up here. Or if it's something very unique, you can always, let's just say XXXXX, which isn't a skill. You can just hit enter and it'll show up there as well. So it doesn't have to be one that's auto-populated there. And then they'll do some suggestion ones. Some of them are useful, some of them aren't great, but you can always add those as well. And again, as always, hit save. I'm going to go down to the experience section next because I think that's pretty important. The experience section, very simple. You'd go on, hit add experience, and here you would go through and fill it out. From job title, employment type, you name it. You don't have to worry about going in order as far as when you upload it, because, or the order in which you write up your jobs, because LinkedIn will do it based on the dates. But you would basically write in, police officer. If I can type, police officer, great. full-time, most likely agency. So here's the thing. Some agencies, a lot of agencies don't have LinkedIn profiles, which is a shame because then you don't get the nice, pretty logo next to your work experience. But like, let's say for me, I worked at the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. They have a profile. I know they do because I created it. So that's there. Obviously, dates of employment. What you want to do is don't just have one section for your entire time with the agency, unless you've only had one position. You want to do one for each role you've had. So for me, it would be deputy sheriff, community policing officer, PIO, and then sergeant. And you want to make one for each, and then put the dates for each individual role, as well as the location, location type, on-site. And then here's where the description is where most people leave it blank. And that's what I recommend you don't do, and actually put in some information. So let's just say I worked on this guy's resume. This is the resume template I showed you all yesterday. And let's just say this is the resume I wrote. It's probably gonna be a little bit too long for the section, so I'm just gonna copy and paste some of it. And you can just, pardon me, copy and paste it, and now it's in here. I think, I forget, it's 2,000 characters is what it is. So if your section's over 2,000 characters, you can always go through and make some minor adjustments to make sure it actually fits. But let's just get rid of a word just so it does fit. So that's going to be gone. The profile headline you can change here as well. I don't know why. Where did you find this job? I don't ever add anything. Skills, again, here you can add skills for this specific role. And you're again 100 per profile. I actually don't know if there's a limit per each job, but again, I think it's quite, if there's a limit per job, it's pretty high. But here again, you can go through and do things like, I don't know, risk assessment, risk management, whatever, program management. And then you want to keep going through all those. And when you're done, media as well. Lastly, if there's images you want to highlight, maybe an award you won or a newspaper clipping or whatever else, you can add those here as media. And then you would hit save. I didn't put dates here. And yeah, let me put that. And it'll pop up right here. So now the profile's starting to look a little bit better. And here's all that. And you would do that basically for every role you have. Add the skills, add the experience in there, and try to be as detailed as you can with it, because again, everything there is searchable as well. So you do want to make sure you spend time on that. If you don't have an education section, you can easily add one up top. Like I showed you before, you would go to add to profile section and then add education, and it'll show up right down here. For education, I recommend, putting actual, universities or colleges. Don't put in there. You can, I guess, put in like, FBI National Academy. I would probably put that under license and certifications, even though it's not really that. It's probably, education is really for actual schooling. Similar to what I said yesterday in the resume section, I wouldn't put high school on there. It's just not important. If you have no further advanced degrees, not a big deal. You can always leave education section off. If you have a handful of credit hours, you can put it on there and just don't list it as a certification. But it's very simple, similar to here. You can say you went to Harvard University, let's just say, if I could type again, and then the degree type and field of study, dates, all of that you can put in here. GPA, if you really want to, you can, but nobody cares. All we care about in recruiting or in the hiring space is that you have the degree. You could have had, straight C's versus A's, and it wouldn't have mattered. They don't really care, especially if you're many years outside of college. If it's your first job after college, your actual, like the comment here, if you're trying to get in law enforcement, having your GPA might be worth it. But for anybody else, probably not worth it. But again, once you save it, it would go here. Also add in license and certifications here. I have the Johnny Reed one. You can add FBI ones, you name it, honors and awards sections you can add. And there's so much more you can add to the profile. But those are the ones that I find the best ones on here. This question here, sorry, everybody. Wait, you're saying in the experience section, type each role someone has had at the agency. Yes, I do recommend that. Of course, if you've had, 30 of them, you can always be a little bit, you can, let's just say let's say you were a detective in 5 different bureaus or 5 different units, you can always narrow it down to one. But I do recommend that because, again, you're only allowed 2,000 characters per section. And if you have patrol time, detective time, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, it's going to be tough to really highlight all your experience in that little section. So I do recommend breaking it out by position. And let me just show you how it would look. Let's just say I put on here another position. Let's just say I was a correctional officer before I was a police officer for the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. So I would just put the year before until there, and how it'll show up is it'll basically just show it up right below it. So then it'll start listing it out kind of like this, how it does here. Oops. Go back. It'll basically show the jobs underneath the one title here. And if you have another agency or organization, it would show up in an entirely separate section here. But I do recommend for each job. But that's a good question. So it could seem like a lot. So the thing with LinkedIn, it's not like a resume where you have to worry about its length. People will look at what they need to look at, but there's no like length standard like there's on a resume. So honestly, the more detailed, the better, because for the most part, recruiters that are going to be actually trying to hire you will be looking for you on LinkedIn Recruiter. The more details you can add in, the better. For my opinion, of course, you can do whatever you want as your profile, but this is how I do it and how I recommend it. But it certainly can get long. The thing it does, though, it does collapse it. So it's not like when someone goes in your profile, it's just going to be pages and pages of jobs. It's going to be collapsed, and they can go on and click to see more if they want to. So don't worry about it being, so long that someone has to scroll and scroll and scroll to get down to the education part, if that makes sense. But really good question. I like that one. This little bit here is more details, probably not as super important, but like I said, I do recommend if it loads. Let me get rid of some of my things here. All right. Well, this is currently not working. I apologize, everybody. I live out in the middle of not necessarily nowhere, but I live a little bit remote, and I'm using Starlink, which is usually pretty great, but now and then it can crap out if the satellites are a little bit out of sync. So I do apologize if this doesn't work. But anyway, if you click on this little pencil icon here on the right side, you can actually customize the URL for your profile. So you can see here it's linkedin.com/in@officer. Let me try one more time if it doesn't work. Okay, cool. So it takes me to this page. So you can go over here and hit this other pencil icon here. And how it shows up for everybody, or most people when you first sign up, it's going to be linkedin.com. And then it's going to be some variation of your name. So for this Officer Leo, and then a whole bunch of random letters and numbers that just make it look kind of messy. So what you can do is literally just delete everything after your name and just have your name. And then you hit save. If your name is very common, if you're John Smith or something similar, most likely it's going to be taken already. So you can do John, middle initial Smith. You can do John Smith, your badge number, whatever else you want to do. You would do that all right there. And then it's a shorter link, and it looks better when you share it somewhere. So not as super important, but you can certainly do that. Visibility down here is all kind of settings where you can change what people can see, and you can be as allowing or as restrictive as you want to be. The default makes you pretty much as visible as possible, which is what I recommend when you're job seeking. But if you really don't want someone to see stuff about your stuff, you can always block it. That way only people you're connected with will see, not random strangers. But the more restrictive you make it, the less visible you'll be to recruiters. So just keep that in mind as well. All right. So again, I showed you the home page before. I'm going to show you now network. So network is where, as the name suggests, you can grow your network. And what it's going to do is you're allowed up to 200 connection requests per week. I really recommend using your profile to build a really powerful network. And that's only going to really be the case if you are connecting with people that you at least are somewhat associated with, either through a career field, you're personally friends or colleagues, you're in the same industry, something like that. That's fine. The goal isn't to have the biggest number of followers or connections. Maybe if you're running a business, it might be more important, but for your sake, looking for a job, I wouldn't. Some people go on here and literally just, see this, hit connect with everybody until they hit their limit for the week. And that's just not very, very useful. But you can go through, and what LinkedIn's going to do, the more time you spend on your profile, it's going to start creating suggestions for you. So again, I put my old agency on here. So a ton of people that I know and are still friends with are on here. So I could connect with them because I already know them. And so it'll do it for the job title, the organization, the school you went to. You know, I put Christopher Newport and Harvard earlier, so those will probably all show up as options, and so on. And this is also where you're going to see people who send connection requests to you. Again, I have a similar standard there. If they're related to me in some way or form, whether it be a personal connection or they're law enforcement officers or in the recruiting world, there's a good chance I'll accept them. I get a lot of requests from overseas, you know, places like India and other places like that. And there's absolutely no offense to them, but I just don't see a whole lot of benefit from that. And I usually say no to them just because there's no real connection to me and what I'm trying to do here on LinkedIn. So be as critical as you want to be with who you decide to accept. And again, the goal isn't to have the largest following. Not when you're looking for a job. That won't really help you. Next is obviously one of the most important parts is the jobs part. And here's where you can look for roles. You can set preferences. You can set job alerts. So you can put on here, you want to be a security manager, let's just say. And then it's going to show you, if it isn't, okay, perfect. Shows you the roles with security manager. And you can always get more and more strategic and tailored with it as well. So you can change things like the date it was posted. You know, one thing I may have mentioned the last 2 days, I'm not sure if I did. Your goal when you're trying to apply for roles is ideally to apply for roles within the first 24 to 48 hours of a role going live. Not always gonna be possible, but if you see a job that's been out there for a week or two, chances are they're already have already looked at candidates and are probably already scheduling, if not already have had scheduled interviews. And there's a great chance your resume won't even be looked at. So you could change this to, you know, 20 past 24 hours, the past week, whatever you want to do. Companies under 10, there's a whole bunch of other filters as well that you can change. But once you have all the filters set for the search you want to do, you can go down here and hit this button right here, which is get job alerts for this search. So if you turn it on, basically what would happen then is you would get emails from LinkedIn when those roles that match all your filters. I think there's like 30 some different filters you can mess around with. You'll get an email for it. And it's supposed to be pretty immediately, but it's not always that case. Usually you get an email once a day from LinkedIn. So you should see the roles that were posted that day. So make sure you do set that on at least for a few roles and just see what comes out from LinkedIn and try to get back on the profile as quickly as you can to apply for those jobs. But again, you can see, you know, job titles, you can see companies' names and so much more in here. You can also go to preferences and change a whole bunch of things here as well. From job alerts, again, you can change all that there. Pay, if you want to set your pay that you're looking for, you can put that there. Open to work status, qualifications, resumes and application data. So if you hit on this, you can actually share resume data with recruiters and hiring managers. So you can put your resume on there and turn this on, and LinkedIn will, I don't know, really, I haven't seen this work very much, honestly, but they claim that they'll actually show some of your skills to recruiters and potentially make you more visible and bring in recruiting managers and hiring and recruiters as well. So you can do all that here as well. So I would suggest you go through there, look around on there, and see what you like. LinkedIn in the past year or two added a verification option where it's basically their way of trying to prevent bots and scammers and all that kind of stuff. Basically, all you would have to do is upload a government ID, so like a driver's license, and LinkedIn says it's all secure through their system. But what it does then, it'll add a little check mark next to your name, similar to the check mark on X or Twitter or whatever it used to be called. But it doesn't cost you anything. And it just makes you look more authentic and real. So take the 3 minutes or whatever it is to do that. It makes people know that you are a real person, not some scammer or something like that. Because the scammers for sure won't have that check mark there. Yeah, so when you're looking for jobs too, one thing I always recommend doing, let's go back to the security manager job. Sometimes, depending on the role, it'll actually have the recruiter who posted the job. So you can see that. If you have premium, it'll start showing you some of the things that make you a good candidate and some of the things that you're missing in your profile, so you can actually make changes to your profile based on those recommendations. So that's one of the benefits that Premium can offer you. Again, is it worth it? I don't know. It's maybe give it a try for 2 or 3 months, see how it works for you. Some people swear by it. Some people say it's a waste of money. Really personal opinion and what you want to do with it. But one thing I recommend doing is going after if you like a job and you want to apply, go to the company's website, or sorry, not website, their profile page, and spend some time on there, see what they're all about. But what I really recommend is going to the People's tab. Because what you can do here is see everyone who's associated with this company. And one of the things I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest and most powerful ways to find a role or land a job in the current job market, the way the current job market is through connections. And some of them you already have through your career. Definitely encourage you to reach out to current and former coworkers who may be in the private sector now. But you also want to try and be proactive with it as well, with people you may not personally know, but are on LinkedIn. I think a question just came in. What's the biggest mistake or oversight people make on LinkedIn? From my personal opinion, the biggest mistake is having a very incomplete profile. They'll have a profile that just has nothing on there. Maybe they have the job title that they have, and that's it. I really recommend, spend an afternoon and go through and make it as complete as possible. Make yourself as visible as possible. And then don't just sit back and hope someone will reach out to you. Be proactive about it as well. And use the power of LinkedIn to build connections with people. And that's what I was kind of talking about here. Thanks, Todd, by the way. It's a really good question. But the biggest mistake is not being complete with their profile, I would say, for sure. And then another mistake, which I'll get to here as well, is just being too generic with any kind of outreach that they do decide to do. So one of the things you can do, especially as you grow your platform, you can go over on the People's tab on a company's page. You can go over to the right here, and it'll show how you're connected with the person. So this is obviously a fake account with no connections, so it's going to be very limited. So there's 3 types of connections. There's first degree, which basically means we're connected. So me and Tim are both connected. We have decided to be followers or connected or whatever else. So we're first degree connections. Second degree would be, let's say me and Tim are still connected, but Tim is connected with Sarah. I'm not connected with Sarah. She would be a second degree. So we would have Tim in common, basically. And then third would be one more removed. Ideally, as you grow your network and your platform and everything else, you would want to try to reach out to people who are first or second degree connections. First being the ideal scenario, second being obviously second best. What other things you can do is try to find people that you can obviously go to the recruiters and hiring managers directly, of course. Just know that they're going to get a lot of messages on LinkedIn because a lot of people are going to do it. You can also try to find other people in the company. Try to find someone that you might have some kind of connection with, So here you can search for people by title, keywords, or schools. So let's just say, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's say Christopher Newport University, which is where I would actually go to school. Let's see if there's 2 people here that study at CNU. So these 2 members. So I could actually, theirs are hidden for whatever reason, but I could actually, if they weren't hidden, I can go on there and chat with them. So what I would do is message them, say, hey, my name is Colin. I'm really interested in scouting America and the role that they're hiring for. This is my background. I see that we both went to Christopher Newport University. Any chance you'd give me a few minutes of your time to talk to you about the company? So it does take a little bit more effort. So you're not just sending generic copy and paste type of messages. You want to make them a little bit more specific towards the individual that you're messaging, because I'm sure you've seen it. It's very obvious when a message is very generic and looks like it's been sent to 50 people already. Try to make it a little bit more specific and try to get on conversations, get on phone calls or email exchanges with people and talk to them about the company, what they like, what they didn't like, any advice they might have about getting your foot in the door. And then also ask them, do you happen to know a recruiter or hiring manager that might be interested in talking to me? And again, some of these conversations will lead nowhere. I'm not going to deny it. That's 100% true. But all it takes is one really good connection that can lead you, that can get your resume in front of the right person at the right time. And for the most part, that's how a majority of people are landing their jobs nowadays, is by being very strategic with their approach versus throw 1,000 resumes at the wall and hope that one sticks. because it's just not very likely. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again today. I would much rather see you only apply to 1 or 2 jobs a day, but make each application very specific and very tailored, than seeing you do 20 jobs a day, but you're being very generic. So that means obviously tailoring your resume, tailoring your cover letter, and then doing this outreach as well. It's very, very important. One thing back to the jobs really quick as well that I recommend doing. First of all, I do think you might have a question about easy apply. I think the easy apply button is one of the worst things to happen to job seekers on this platform. For those of you who do not know, let me see if I can find an example. As the name suggests, it's very easy. Your resume and you will have applied. So when you see posts on LinkedIn or hear stories from someone saying they've applied to 1,000 jobs in the past month, most likely they're doing a lot of that, which is, you might as well throw your resume into the fire and you'll have the same success rate doing both. Then if you're doing that, most likely you're not tailoring your resume and you're not spending any type of time making it very specific to that role. But even beyond that, one thing I recommend doing is not applying for the job through LinkedIn. So a lot of the links will take you back to the company's website, and that's where I honestly prefer you to go. So recently, LinkedIn separated from a lot of applicant tracking systems, if not all of them. So when I go and post a job on my applicant tracking system, it sends it out to all the job boards we partnered with. And they used to include LinkedIn. LinkedIn now, trying to make more money, requires companies to pay for every job posting or almost every job posting they put out there. So they no longer just automatically share jobs from applicant tracking systems. So if I'm a recruiter, I would have to manually create a LinkedIn job post as well. And most recruiters will look at their applicant tracking system candidates first and then go back to LinkedIn. So let's just say, for example, you really love this role. That sounds like the dream job. You can go on to their company page again. Usually that's on the About section. They'll list their website and then click on their website link and go to their careers page and apply from there. Will it make a massive difference? Maybe, probably not a huge one, but typically I do see slightly better success rates when you apply on the company's website versus applying through LinkedIn. So it's weird because I love LinkedIn, but I also don't think it's the greatest place to apply for jobs. But that's a pretty high level overview of LinkedIn and what you can do on it. I really encourage you to spend some time on the platform and just, putz around on there. When I started, my profile sucked. I didn't really use it very well. I had to spend more time on there. If you all follow me on LinkedIn, I post a lot, so I do apologize. Hopefully it's helpful. But so this is my profile page just to give you an example of how it looks. Also, if you're watching this and we're not connected, please do connect with me. I'll absolutely send your connection request. You can send me a message too saying, hey, we talked. I watched your video. Please accept. I 100% will. This is obviously me. If you see this is the right one. One thing you can do as well, I mentioned messaging people. You might say, well, Colin, LinkedIn doesn't let me message people. Some people have it set where you can message them, where other ones are more private and you can't message them. So what you can do then is one workaround. You could hit connect, and then you can add a note. So basically you can still send them a message. It'd be a connection request and you only have 200 characters. So you have to be a little bit more creative with your message, but this is a way that you can send a connection request to somebody there. And I think it looks like, and actually this is a new feature here. It looks like LinkedIn now might be limiting that as well. 3 personal invitations remaining for this month. So that's interesting as well. That's a newer thing that they've done. So never mind. It looks like they've made that a little bit harder as well. But I still think a lot of people have it set where you can still message them. So do take advantage of that. And I think with premium, you probably will be able to message a few more people as well. Are there any questions about LinkedIn, guys? I know there's, you can go down some rabbit holes for sure, but anything on here that that you're not clear of, but I can explain more, anything else like that, I'll leave it up for now just so you can see it. And if there's no questions, I'll stop sharing the screen so that you guys can see my face a little better. But any questions, guys? I'm sorry, we went a little over like I thought we would. I think there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm not just staring off into nothing. I'm waiting to see if there's questions. You can also always email me as well. I'll put up my email here once we're done on the actual platform of LinkedIn. I'll show you my email address, so you're very welcome to email me personal questions as well about it. Thanks, Colin. I really appreciate that feedback. It means a lot. If there's ever things you guys think I can do better or add more value to, let me know. LinkedIn optimization is a service I offer too. So if you are, not interested in social media, don't want to do it, is outsource that as well. And I'll be happy to do it for you. So keep that in mind as well. Hey, Jesus, sent a connection request. Thanks, man. I just saw it come through. I'll absolutely accept it here once we're done here. Okay, thanks again. I'm in the group that doesn't do much social media. I had no idea my LinkedIn profile was so incomplete. Well, good. Honestly, knowledge is power, and the not knowing what you don't know is honestly the worst position to be in. So I'm glad now at least you know. And it's very easy to correct. So don't think you're behind. You can go on there and honestly in an afternoon do it. If you feel really lost, you want more help, or you're a big reader, I wrote a book about the whole topic about leaving law enforcement. It's called Beyond the Thin Blue Line. It's paperback. There's an audible version as well, and an ebook version. And the ebook's actually only 99 cents for the next, I think, 3 or 4 days on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and look up Beyond the Thin Blue Line, and it'll pop up if you need help with it. Again, if you would like to read. Honestly, I wrote it, but I don't really enjoy reading much, or I should read more. I just don't have time. But some people love to read, so I can check that out as well. But I'm glad this was helpful for you. Excellent session. Thanks for your time and expertise this evening. You're very welcome, Todd. Thanks for being here. I think it's your 3rd day in a row, so I appreciate you being here. Jeff, thank you as well. What do endorsements mean on skills from connections? Okay, good question, Gavin. So endorsements, basically, I don't think they help a ton, but basically, let's say, Gavin, let's say you put on your profile that your skill is public speaking, and I've seen you be a public speaker myself. I could go on there and endorse you. I can say, yep, I can vouch for Gavin here. He's a great public speaker. So that's basically all it is. It's somebody besides yourself saying, yep, he 100% is that. It's not really used that much. I have a decently large, not following, but connection number. I think it's like 26,000 or 25,000, whatever. I think I only have a handful of endorsements, which either means I suck or people aren't using endorsements as much. So I wouldn't stress too much about it, but basically it's just someone saying, hey, this person, I agree with this person's skill set. They absolutely have this skill. And you can endorse people too. You can go to, hey, we can go to, I don't know if I can do it on an actual famous person, but we might be able to go to his skills if he has skills. Nope, he doesn't have skills. So we'll go find somebody else. Oh, let's go to my page. We can give myself an endorsement. Or I can really show you how it would be. So if I went down to my skills, see, someone here has endorsed it in the last 6 months. So program management, I put down as a skill. And it was endorsed by these people, which is nice, but I could also go on here. Oops, let that go up. Where's skills? Oh, there we go. I think my internet is being a little weird. So I could kick me out, but basically I would go on there and hit endorse, and it will just say, yep, I vouch for this person. He's good at that skill. Good question. One more question. Do you recommend reapplying to positions that are regularly posted on LinkedIn? That's a good question. I would say it's worth applying at least a second time if they keep reposting it over and over again and it's not going anywhere. There's probably 2 things. One, I'm sure you're a phenomenal candidate, so applying at the first one. One is that you're just not qualified for the role and they're just not interested. The other option could also be that, unfortunately, they say about 35 to 40% of jobs advertised, not just on LinkedIn, just advertised on the web in general, are not. There's no intention to actually hire anybody for those roles, and that's pretty discouraging, I know, as a job seeker. So it's very possible companies are just putting out not necessarily fake jobs, well, they kind of are, but they're basically just trying to farm resumes. They're trying to get as many resumes in their database as they can in case they ever need it in the future. So that could very well be the case as well. And from my personal opinion too, if a company has advertised a job 4 times and has received hundreds of applications for all every time they've put it out there, they don't know what they're looking for. And that may not be a position you want to get yourself into, because it sounds like they don't even know what they want. Because for the most part, most jobs nowadays are getting a ton of applications. And if you can't find one candidate that you want to hire from that, you probably don't know what you're looking for. So yeah, I'd probably at least apply twice, maybe a third time. But there is something to be said as well about not necessarily spamming, but not sending too many applications to one company at a time. Not all companies do this, probably not even that many of them, but a percentage of them do keep very good records of applicants. I know Booz Allen does this, for example. Booz Allen Hamilton does this for sure, where let's say I want to work there and I've applied to 10 roles in the past week, and they're all very different type of roles. They'll actually see that and say, hey, this guy Colin here has applied for 10 different jobs here. Doesn't seem like he has any clue in what he wants to do. He's just applying for anything. And that's a huge red flag as well. So a little bit of tangent from your question, but if you're applying for a company, try to find, the one or two roles you're really excited about, or at least keep your applications in a very, narrow field. Don't apply for one role in security and another role in recruiting, another role in HR. You try to keep it more in line with what you want to do. Really good question. Just sent you a connection request. Awesome. I'll 100% accept that. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I was referencing a bigger company like Meta, Microsoft. Yeah, have competitive roles. So I figured I'd wait until I can add it to my resume. Yeah, so I will say, those big companies, even though they'd be obviously phenomenal places to work, they are very competitive. So if you're going to apply for one of those firms or companies, you definitely need to have a very, very strong resume. So hopefully yesterday helped some. As I mentioned yesterday too, feel free to send me your resume and I'll give you some, feedback on it. And hopefully that will help as well. But be very, very strong on your resume. And as much as you can, try to network as well, because those big firms or big companies that are very well known will get a ton of applications, and those can be more challenging for sure. But great questions, guys. I really love it. Anything else? I'll stay here as long as there's questions. Besides bed, I have nowhere else to be. But yeah, awesome. Thanks again. Have a good night. Yeah, you as well. Hope to see you all tomorrow too. Anyone who hopes to come back tomorrow. I was originally planning on doing it in more of a Zoom call feature, but then I realized that some people maybe join late, may not get the link in time. So I'm just going to do this YouTube live thing again. But I'm probably going to have another one of these sessions, probably in February sometime. Well, I'll probably make it more of a you have to register ahead of time, and then you'll get an actual Zoom call. That way we can actually see each other's faces, and you can ask me your questions, on a Zoom call versus having to message them here. But hopefully this hasn't been too much of a pain doing it this way. Just trying to experiment to see what's the best option for everybody. And the one nice thing about YouTube is that obviously it stays up there longer, so people can watch it tomorrow, the next day, and things like that as well. So just trying to figure out what's best for everybody. But hope to see you all tomorrow too. Tomorrow will be about interviewing, figuring out what companies are a good fit for you, and salary negotiations and things like that, and just kind of wrapping up the 4 days. But I really hope this has been helpful for you all. I love this topic, and it's something that when I left law enforcement, I didn't really think I was going to get into, but I quickly realized again how few resources are out there for our officers, and just trying to do anything I can to help. And while I still run a business, of course, I do try to give away as much stuff for free as I can. Because I know not everybody has the means of desire to work with a professional coach or anything like that. So stuff like this, and other videos I make, and the downloadable resources, I hope those will really help you. But again, if you want to work with me too, of course, I'm here for that as well. Special event guy, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a lot of fun. If you can't tell, I love LinkedIn. It's definitely one of my favorite parts of the job search process when done correctly, for sure. Any other questions? I always learn, even though I have my goal in life is to never be an employee ever again. I just, now that I do this, I love it. But even still, I always like to look at the jobs that are out there, and and see it. I am hoping in the next year, within the next year or so, to actually start hiring for myself. So if you think you have a passion for this type of work, you want to help other law enforcement officers transition to the private sector, whether it be in actual recruiting, or whether it be in sales, business development, marketing. I'm hoping to expand in different directions. I have absolutely zero business background whatsoever, so I'm kind of making it up as I go. So eventually, I'd love to hire people that are specialists in their field and that can really help this grow and reach more people. John, I'm glad to help, man. And nice to see you here too. And I'll be sending you an email here probably tomorrow. I know I'm working together already, so hopefully this was helpful for you. And excited to work on your LinkedIn next. All right, I think that was probably all the questions. Oh, shoot, sorry, I forgot to put up my, it's probably too late now, most people have already left, but let me put up my email here in case anybody has other questions. Yeah, here we go. So if you do have a question, or you want to send me your resume, or you even want to send me your LinkedIn profile link to say, hey, can you have a look at it? I'm very happy to do it. I made this email before realizing how ridiculously long it is, but it's colin.whittington@recruitingheroesllc.com. So I have a long name, and then the business name is pretty long. And the reason why it's Recruiting Heroes LLC, not just Recruiting Heroes. When I first started the company, I started with like $200, and someone had bought the domain recruitingheroes.com. And when I asked them about purchasing it, they said, "Yeah, you can have it. It's $4,000." And at the time, it was just a little bit too rich for my blood. But I'm considering buying it in the future just to have it be able to drop the LLC from the website or